Yes, I think we are live now. Hello, how are you? No, should we start?
Yep, we're live.
Okay, then we can go ahead. So, first of all, welcome everyone to our Semrush webinar today, SEO and PPC, Yin and Yang. So thanks for joining. I think it's a very interesting topic, and it's the first episode of a series actually, and I'm happy that I'm the lucky one to be hosting the series. I'm Halide, Ebcinoglu, co-founder of the international SEM and SEO agency, Kubix Digital. And as I said, I will be hosting this webinar today and also the next episodes. This webinar topic means actually a lot to me personally, as I'm someone of the very few people who actually do both SEO and PPC. And let's say, I mean, PPC is a very common and broad term. I would rather say search engine advertising. So because PPC covers much more than just paid search. And I think usually people find it very weird if I say I do SEO and SEM, because usually there are always two fronts. You are either doing SEO on the one side or PPC. So people usually think these two areas are totally different and having different approaches, different mindsets, different techniques. So PPC in general is more about the money, the spend, the data. So terms like ROI, ROAS, CPA, and so on plays a much more important role. And on the other side, when it comes to SEO, people usually think of the technical part only. So they think SEOs are only doing technical SEO audits, like checking crawling and indexing issues, running websites through some tools, and working on the mistakes the website has, for example. But generally speaking, I mean, aren't both SEM and SEO not about finding the right strategy for users searching on Google, for example, or other search engines? So we should always think about reaching these searches with paid or either organic results. And to me, both have the same intention. And the initial goal in the end should be to give the user the best answer or the result possible. Actually, the trick is about the strategy and how we can leverage those two areas. How can these two parts work best together? What we should consider, and maybe also in which cases we should decide on whether to use just one or both of them. So today we will be talking about SEO and PPC. And as I said, this is the first episode of this series. So it will be a general discussion today about the topic itself. And but we will also deep dive into more specific areas in the coming episodes. So if you have any specific episode ideas, please feel free to comment or send them over to us. Today I have two great guests, Kevin Indig and David Szetela. Kevin, he's the Vice President of SEO and Content at G2. And David Szetela, owner and CEO at FMB Media. So one SEO and one PPC expert. And I'm kind of in between. So I will mainly play the referee role today and will take care of the balance. So it's all about the balance, the yin-yang story. I will watch out that you guys get along well, be nice to each other. Don't forget that SEOs and PPCs are friends. And the aim of this webinar series should be that we should be even best friends, not only good friends. So I will also hold this sign from time to time. So whenever I see some conflicts, okay, I will remind you.
Nice.
Maybe let's start with an introduction of yourselves to our audience. And we will also have some short presentations of you guys, so we can continue with the presentations afterwards. So maybe Kevin, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Yes, for sure. Thanks for the intro, Halide, and hello for everybody tuning in. So I've had about 10 years of experience, mainly in SEO. So I'm traditionally one of the tech SEO guys, but over the last couple of years, I kind of broadened my horizons and have been much more involved in other inbound marketing channels, from social to email, and all that kind of stuff. And I've also had the opportunity to gain some experience in paid search campaigns. So before my job here at G2, I was I worked at Atlassian and was very involved in aligning inbound marketing channels with paid channels. Was able to gain a lot of experience that I'll reflect in the presentation.
Cool. David?
So I've been doing PPC for 13 years, or 16 years actually. And I've done almost nothing but PPC during that time. And that will be very apparent by my slides and my discussion. I have spoken at a lot of conferences. I've written a couple of books about PPC. I do I've been doing a podcast for 10 years called PPC Rockstars. And I just started an organization called the Paid Search Association, which is for PPC professionals. And I'll be talking a little bit more about that in my presentation.
Cool. So, Kevin, would you like to start with your presentation?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm going to share my screen real quick. And we're jumping right in. I hope you can see my screen.
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay, so I already introduced myself. I'm going to skip over that and going to jump right into the topic, SEO versus PPC. I want to start with some of the benefits of PPC and SEO, and then talk a little bit about the downsides. So first of all, benefits of PPC. We all know that PPC scales really well because you can, in simple manners, just simply turn it on, right? Start bidding, you get immediate exposure. It also allows you to target much better because you can define the keywords to a certain degree yourself. You can also use PPC very well for testing because you can direct the traffic better to certain URLs. You can use it for A/B testing and get information much quicker. And we'll dive into that in just a second. You also have more power over ad integrations. You can display call ad integrations and others. You can just design your ads in a much more active way than you can compared to SEO. And then lastly, you have less uncertainty. Halide, you already alluded to PPC being much more ROAS and returns driven. I think it's a much more kind of arbitrage perspective to look at. But because it's so much faster to scale and so much better to target, you also can control it much more than SEO. Now, the other side, oh, by the way, another benefit of PPC is that you're actually gaining in click-through rate for paid search on mobile. So this is data from SparkToro that was looking at the last 3 years and how the click-through rates differ on mobile between the organic results and the paid results. And so even though, it's pretty bad to see how many zero-click results there are, we do see that the organic click-through rate on mobile is declining, whereas the paid click-through rate on mobile is increasing. And want to add to that Google changing the layout of ads to where now they're just indicated by like a little tiny logo. That certainly contributes to more clicks on paid results. I myself have fallen into the trap where I thought it was an organic result, but it was actually a paid result when I was doing some quick searches on mobile. So, but PPC has that going for it. On the other side, SEO. SEO is technically free. Yes, you might have to pay writers or some designers, right? But in essence, organic traffic is free. Organic traffic is also more trusted, and we'll look at some data proof for that in just a second. And we get more clicks. We, in comparison, even though, for example, the mobile click-through rate for paid results is growing, in total, SEO and organic results still get more clicks for searches. We're also not dependent on the investment, which means that, for example, for PPC, if you turn your spend down, if you shut it off, you will get no more traffic. Whereas with SEO, if you stop, grooming your content or optimizing your site, you will still get traffic, sometimes for a very long time. And then lastly, we all know about the ad or banner blindness that a lot of users have because so many sites have shown aggressive ads, and users are increasingly more ignorant to those ads. So there are those downsides, which are upsides for SEO. And so when we look at the distribution of clicks, this is also from the same SparkToro analysis, we see that the absolute majority of clicks goes to organic results, right? There's only 3.8% that go to paid clicks, and then pretty much, more than 10 times that's going to organic clicks. So we have that going for us. But the big statement that I want to make here is it would be foolish of me to pretend that SEO is the only thing that works, right? And is the channel to be, right? If I want to call myself a marketer, I wouldn't, rule any of those out. Instead, I would want to combine the two, right? That's where the magic is. And especially nowadays, where marketing is getting so much more holistic and omni-channel, we cannot simply isolate the two channels, right? So I'm all for the yin and yang, I'm all for the going together. Maybe some people expected me to put up a fight and bash PPC and have some punches, but at the end of the day, this is all about working together and making the most of both channels. But the question is how? And so here are a couple of thoughts. First of all, when you bid on your brand, the question is not should you bid on your brand or not. The question is how strong is your brand? This data is from a study that was done in 2014 by researchers from Berkeley in collaboration with eBay. And what they did is they went out and tested what happens when they completely turn off the paid ads for their brand on MSN search and on Google search. This is what you see in the screenshot right here. And as you can see, when they turned off paid search, the clicks on organic search increased. You see this correlation very clearly. And so what happens is that users just simply revert back to the organic results when they didn't find the paid one anymore. And one of the reasons is that eBay is a very strong brand. And we observed the same thing at Atlassian. We tested brand search on all of our products like Jira, Bitbucket, Trello, Confluence, et cetera. And what we realized is that we saw different reactions. For very strong brands like Jira or Trello, people would simply click on the organic results. But for brands that were not as well known, there was an impact where if we stopped bidding on the brands, people would maybe click on competitor brand results, competitor paid results. So what's also really interesting is that this is from the same study, this is the abstract from the same study, that when you want to bid on non-brand keywords, they're most effective when it comes to new buyers. So as it says in the abstract, I highlighted this last sentence down here, that more frequent users whose purchasing behavior is not influenced by ads account for most of the advertising expenses, resulting in average returns that are negative. Meaning that when you display ads to regular buyers, you don't really get anything else from them because they're already buying. the only net positive results comes from new buyers. And that is challenging. There are ways to steer your ad campaigns to new buyers, but in regular paid search on Google, it's not really that controllable, right? We'll come back to that in just a second. Now, what you should do when you bid on non-brand keywords is you should look at your profit margin, right? There's, in the startup world, there's this classic equation of lifetime value versus customer acquisition cost, which is what you see here, LTV versus CAC. And so, of course, when your lifetime value is higher than your customer acquisition costs, meaning when the returns you get from a customer are higher than what you have to spend to acquire the customer, you can bid on non-brand keywords, no brainer. However, if that's not the case, you should be very careful. You can do this for a certain amount of time to stimulate, purchases or buying power, but over time, you're basically eating away your profit margins. And so that's also pretty much what a little paper from Google on the AI blog from 2012 stated, is that organic results and paid results work really well in conjunction, but only when your profit margins are positive. Now, what you can do with paid search is you can use it from an SEO perspective to test user intent. Now, if you read some of my articles or visit some of my presentations, you know that I'm preaching this concept of user intent and how crucial it is to rank nowadays, right? If you don't satisfy user intent, you will not rank in search results. And it is very difficult from an SEO perspective because it's kind of a chicken and egg problem, right? You create some content, it doesn't rank. Is that because of search intent or not? You can use paid results though to test that. So what you can do is you can compare the user signals per keyword to determine the intent. What you see here is a screenshot from a company I've been working with. I had to obfuscate the keywords and URLs, of course, but it's the standard Google Analytics report that's connected to the Google Ads platform. And what you see here is not only the traffic that you get per keyword to a certain URL from PPC, but you also get some of the user signals and understand how that traffic is performing, right? So you could see, for example, that certain keywords have a higher bounce rate than others. And if you pull the strings together, you can build a model that helps you to understand if that keyword is satisfying user intent for the URL on your site. What you can also do with paid search from an SEO perspective is you can get very accurate impressions data. So the search volume that we get from Google Keyword Planner is most of the time an estimation. And then when you go to Search Console and you compare the impressions that you get for a certain keyword when you rank on the first page of Google with the search volume, you see that there are often very big gaps or differences. PPC helps you to bridge those gaps by giving you accurate impression data. And then they can also, using PPC can also help you to get around really nasty SERP features. So what you see here on the right-hand side is a GIF from the search results for the keyword CRM, CMS, content management systems. And what you see is that you have a ton of ads on top of the search results. And below that, you have a ton of Google integrations, like a news carousel or like a knowledge card. And those integrations take away a lot of clicks from the mobile organic results. So what you can do is you can bid on the paid results to get around these Google integrations and get a lot of the traffic. Granted that you follow the rule that I stated earlier about lifetime value having to be larger than the customer acquisition cost. And then lastly, I want to finish with a big question, which is to increase the awareness for how much demand ads really drive. I think one big problem that I see for PPC and ads in general is that it is still very difficult for us to understand if they actually stimulate purchases or if they, if there's a lot of noise. So there's this famous quote that says that half of advertising spend is lost money, but you don't know which half. And it relates exactly to that. There was a study from 2018, from last year, where researchers looked at Facebook ads and basically researched the selection effect. And the selection effect means or describes the effect that happens when people already had a buying intent and see the ads and then buy. So if that happens, have the ads really influenced the purchasing intent or not, right? So this is very hard to measure. And that's why I want to question, how much demand ads really drive, because we cannot say with 100% certainty in every case that the ad was actually responsible for the purchase, or if the purchase was already planned and the ad just accelerated it, right? So that's my take. I hope I was able to give away some information, and I'm curious to hear your take, David.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Very great insights. I think it's important to understand how really SEO and PPC can work together. You gave some very good examples how PPC can leverage SEO work. I'm sure there are also some examples vice versa, how SEO can leverage PPC work as well. But we can, if you have any questions regarding Kevin's presentation, just feel free to ask in the chat, and I will take it from there. But first, we can maybe also listen to David's presentations and his thoughts on this topic, and see what he thinks about that.
With pleasure. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen, share my presentation, go to full screen, hopefully. Okay, how's that? Can you see my slides okay?
Not yet.
Not yet, no.
Hold on, let me go back and share my screen again. Ah, I see why.
Yeah, now it's there.
Okay. So I chose to take a slightly less balanced view than Kevin did. I'm going to try to make the case for why PPC is better than SEO. It's a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek position because I do value SEO. But I wanted to briefly mention the Paid Search Association, which is a new industry association exclusively for people who practice PPC management, and that's at paidsearch.org. And I also wanted to bring attention to the book that I wrote on PPC advertising, which I'm going to make available for free at the end of my presentation. So a few caveats before I get started. I don't know anything about SEO. I did SEO back in probably 1983 or 2003 for a few years, but since then I've done nothing but PPC. So I apologize if I display some ignorance about SEO and the technicalities of it. The second apology is that unlike Kevin, I'm missing a gene in my body that lets you design nice slides. So I apologize for the fact that my slides will be mostly text and boring. My last caveat is that I really do value SEO, but for the purposes of this presentation, I'm going to pretend that I don't. So why does SEO kind of suck? Well, first of all, as Kevin just pointed out with the slide showing organic listings and ads on a mobile device, the organic listings are getting pushed further and further down on the search results page. And it's for some SEOs, that's extremely frustrating. And for PPC practitioners, that's really good news because it means that the lion's share of the screen real estate is being taken up by stuff that's under our control. Another reason that SEO is difficult, let's say, is that every engine update can either make or break the organic listings and make or break the fortunes of the companies that are underneath the listings, and that's got to be difficult to contend with. Another reason that I think PPC has an advantage over SEO is that with SEO, it's difficult to control the messaging. In other words, with PPC, you can vary the messaging of the ad to exactly match the search query and hopefully mirror that messaging on the landing page, such that the person doing the search concludes that they've definitely come to the right place. They can see the benefit in the ad, and they take advantage of the offer on the landing page. Another reason I think PPC or SEO is difficult is that I think it's difficult to judge what is valuable original content that drives so much of the SEO juice. I think juice is an old word, but another difficulty with SEO is that legal link building is so time consuming, and so it's difficult to predict the outcome. And I think one of the main reasons that I see SEO practitioners tearing out their hair is that their clients run out of patience so early. This is, I think Kevin pointed out, one of the advantages of PPC is that you can see the results so quickly. And I know from working with SEO people in other agencies that it's not uncommon for a client to conclude that the SEO program's not working because it's not producing results within a few weeks. So what makes PPC so great? Well, in my mind, the main reason is that the messaging is so totally controlled. The ad text, as I said, can match the intent of the search query so perfectly that the person looking at the ad can conclude right away, this is exactly what I was looking for. Furthermore, the use of ad extensions and other techniques can really occupy a lot of real estate on the search results page, and reinforce messaging, and really get across complex concepts in a relatively small space. That, to me, that's really, really important, because the very first intent of any listing on the page is to ensure that the person doing the search concludes that they've come to the right place and that there's something in it for them if they click through. As I mentioned earlier, results are immediate. You can mount a PPC campaign on day one and have sufficient data and results to start optimizing within a week, and within a month have increases in conversion rates and return on investment that are much better than can be obtained through SEO. And I think Kevin also mentioned this, and that is that testing and optimization can take place very rapidly. Ads can be tested against each other within a short period of time. Landing pages can be tested, and all of this can take place in such a short time that the client is as happy as can be. Another reason I think PPC has an advantage is that the best practices in PPC are much more clear-cut and straightforward than I believe they are with SEO. In other words, it's quite possible to pick up a good book on PPC advertising and learn the best practices and apply them, and be fairly assured that the best results will be obtained. Another reason is that there's always a way to get the ad to rank at or near the top of the page. For those of you who are not PPC managers, the ads are ranked not only by the amount the advertiser is willing to pay, but also by virtue of a factor called quality score, where the ad or the advertiser is rewarded for better and better click-through rate over time, and better and better landing page quality over time. And an ad can actually rank higher than a competitor, even if the competitor is paying more or willing to pay more per click. And another last reason I think PPC is fantastic is that it's just complicated enough that I have, and all PPC managers have good job security. In other words, it's very unlikely lately that an individual or a company without the resources can decide one day to start doing PPC management out of the blue and get good results. Now, I want to remind everyone that when I'm talking about PPC, it's not just paid search. Display advertising, let's take, for example, Google's display network or Microsoft's audience network. It's not just for branding. It's some of my clients get 50% or more of their conversions, and that's leads and even sales from display. So PPC is again not just paid search. Remarketing is a tactic that everyone should be using. That is utilizing pay-per-click or paid search. Shopping is another must-use tactic for anybody that's advertising for e-commerce. But all of these things are not strictly speaking paid search, but they're very powerful and must-use tactics. So when is PPC crucial and maybe even more important than SEO? In my mind, PPC is crucial in situations where the geographic area that's being addressed is confined. So for local businesses and businesses that want to target a small geographic area. Another place where PPC is crucial is with low search products. And what I mean by this is that display advertising can be used when search advertising and organic or SEO are insufficient to reach the target audience. And that's for when, for example, a new product or service is being rolled out, where there's no search demand at all for the company's brand or the company's branded products or services. Another place where PPC is crucial is with high competition keywords. I'm even without knowing a lot about the tactics that are used for SEO, I'm sure that the high competition keywords make it really, really unlikely that everybody can get a chance to rank. Whereas, as I mentioned before, a smart PPC manager can make sure that their ads appear closer to the top of the page by using things like exact match and long tail and display advertising. Now, here's a kind of a heretical statement. The question comes up often, and has come up often over the years, about whether PPC advertising actually helps organic listings, helps a company rank higher with organic listings. And I think the answer is actually yes. Even though I wouldn't have said so before I prepared this presentation, I decided that it's extremely likely that, for example, when I create a display campaign for a client and get millions of display impressions for them, that must boost brand organic searches, and that must affect the rankings of organic listings. The same with the number of visitors that are generated through PPC, especially display advertising. And that's the end of my prepared remarks. I'm happy to take your questions. I wanted to show my book one more time and offer a free copy to anybody that wants to drop me an email. It's not I wrote it several years ago, so it's not hasn't been updated in a while, but there's a lot in it that's evergreen and is intended to teach people from amateur to expert new techniques. So thanks again for your attention. Looking forward to answering your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, David.
Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, we are getting along quite well, I guess. And I mean, some people in the comments, I see they are expecting some fight, but I mean, no, we are not fighting today. Everything is fine.
No, I have nothing personal against Kevin.
No, but also not against other SEOs, right? We are all
absolutely.
Yeah. Let's check the questions. I see a question here for Kevin from Olga Utku. The question is, great tip for keywords bounce rate. No. Kevin, you mentioned page update for SEO. What aspects are the most fruitful items to update?
Well, yeah. I think I do assume what the question relates back to is when I mentioned that when you turn off PPC spends, traffic goes down, but when you stop grooming or optimizing your site, you still get traffic. I think that's what it relates back to. But Olga, please shoot another question if that's a faulty assumption. So what I meant by that is that in some cases, it is important to keep your content fresh as in making sure that the data is up to date, that the statements are up to date, especially when you write about evergreen topics. Those are things that develop on, they update. So you need to make sure to a certain degree that your information is up to date, or otherwise Google will slowly rank you lower over time.
Hey, can I disagree with Kevin strenuously on one point?
Okay, now the fight starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
The studies that you showed about the synergy between, or the lack of synergy between PPC and organic when it came to searching for brand terms, I've seen other research, especially one study from Microsoft, and if people will email me, I'll send them the link to it, showing that there is actually a synergistic effect, and when both PPC advertising on brand and the organic listing occurred on the page, there was a higher number of clicks than if either one of them had appeared separately. So the sum was larger, or the total was larger than the sum of the parts.
I'd be curious to see what the incremental effect is of the bidding cost, right? Like how much more clicks do you get from bidding on your brand, and how does that relate back into revenue? And that's why on the slide, I pointed out that it depends really on your brand strength, right? For a really strong brand, when people Google the brand, they will click on the brand result no matter what. For a very weak one, they might be distracted by competitors. So I think there is some sort of a gray area or some sort of context that has to be displayed, but I would love to see that Microsoft research.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's check the other questions. There's a question for you, David. Codrin asks, the benefits of PPC. What about the mistakes that can be done and the costs associated with overspending on PPC? How do you optimize for that?
I missed one word. What is the cost of what that can be done?
Associated with overspending on PPC.
Okay. I'm not sure I understand the question. Could you repeat the beginning of the question?
What about the mistakes that can be made and
okay.
the costs associated with overspending on PPC? How do you optimize for that?
Right. Well, the way to optimize for that particular mistake is just don't do it. I would encourage the person asking the question to do a search, and again, I'll be happy to provide a link if you want to email me, to scripts that have been published that actually monitor the spend day to day and set off an alarm if the overspend looks to be problematic.
Here's another question for you, David. I'm curious to hear your take on how sensible do you think PPC management is to the impact of machine learning and artificial intelligence? Like, how high do you see the probability of a program replacing a person within the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I don't think it's very likely. AI and machine learning have been applied to the search engines platforms for advertising in really smart ways. The way that stands out the most to me is automated bid management. Both Microsoft and Google have fantastic devices for automated bid management, and really frees up the time for the PPC manager to do other things that humans can do uniquely well that machines can't do yet. And some of those things include writing ads, optimizing ads, testing landing page copy, testing landing page design, forensics, for example, trying to figure out what went wrong when the results start to go bad, analyzing data in intelligent ways and kind of mixing and matching and playing with that data. Some of these things will be eventually automated, but I think there will always be, here's the analogy I always make. This is especially true about men. Men like to go out and buy woodworking equipment or tools, and they fill up a garage with their tools and they expect to be able to turn out masterpieces. Well, they can't because they don't have the skills to operate the tools. And it's the same way with the feature sets of the advertising platforms. Lots and lots of really good discrete tools, but unless they're used together in kind of a holistic, harmonious way with expertise behind it, you're not going to get the best possible results.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay. We have another interesting question here with the increased number of zero-click searches in Google. Jeannie Hill asks, I would welcome hearing how you increase conversions in our increasingly clickless world, or as you say, stuff that is out of our control. Do you have any recommendations? I mean, how can we measure this, or how can we prepare a proper strategy for this?
Yeah, zero click alarm is fairly recent, and we have to thank our friend Rand Fishkin for raising the issue. I'm not worried about it. I mean, basically, a good click-through rate is 2%, 3%, 5%, 6%, and obviously that means that a huge number or a huge percentage of people are just not clicking on ads. And if there's a slight increase in nobody clicking on anything on the page, I don't think that's going to materially affect the results of my PPC campaigns or my ability to improve the results from them over time, because so much of that improvement comes from factors other than click-through rate.
Yeah.
Interesting. I want to respectfully disagree at this point.
Oh.
I think and this is why I love this question, is because you saw my slides that I have Batman versus Superman to display PPC versus SEO, and in the latest movie, at the end they actually team up against Lex Luthor. So the open question is, who is our Lex Luthor? And the answer is it's Google. It's Google itself, and Google is getting users into the habit of getting the answer in the search results without clicking anything. Mm-hmm. And that's why, David, I respectfully disagree with you at this point, is because I think the danger is real for both SEO and PPC. And that's also why I'm an advocate for combining the two, because we have to do everything in our power to get the traffic that we still get. Now, to also answer the question here, I think the right response is to do everything in your power to become a destination yourself and not relying on search traffic, whether paid or organic. So this is what successful companies have done with Google, like Amazon, Booking, and a couple of others. They invested heavily in Google Ads and organic results, both. And now they're such a destination that people go to their sites and apps directly. And I think that has to be the end goal, at least for larger companies, because I agree that banking all your money in the long term on organic or on paid and thinking that is super secure is pretty risky. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Good points.
Yeah. Another very interesting question, which is also very interesting for me, because I see in lots of companies that the PPC departments and SEO departments are completely different and separated. And Kasia is asking, as an in-house SEO, what's the best strategy for collaborating with our in-house PPC manager? Do you have any ideas or any tips for her?
Yes, so I can only speak to my experience here at G2 and at Atlassian. And what we did there was to hold the two teams accountable for similar goals. So we would have meetings with both teams on a weekly basis to compare performance, and then basically come together at the bottom line of the company, conversions, so to speak, right? What are the conversions from both channels and how can they support each other? I think it also makes a ton of sense to have them in the same department, but it gets tricky, right? Because technical SEO, I think, should be under products, where on page on SEO and content marketing should be more under marketing, hopefully combined with PPC. So you get the kind of dichotomy and tension that I'm trying to point out here. And there's no perfect answer to that. But I think by having similar incentives and similar metrics to look at, you automatically align the two teams.
Yeah, I mean, the intention is the same, basically. I mean, to get the user on the website, or to let the user do a specific conversion or engagement. So the two teams should work and collaborate together towards this goal. That's true. There's a question from Michael Reddy for you, David. You mentioned concern regarding organic results being crowded out. PPC appears to be only 4% of clicks. Knowing that, do you feel that doing only PPC leaves a lot of traffic on the table?
Doing PPC leaves a lot of traffic on the table? Is that what he said?
Yeah, this is the question.
I think this relates to what I said a little earlier. In my world, and for the past 15 years, I've been happy with 5% of the impressions turning into clicks. So I know that there are many reasons why someone might do a search and not click on my ad, much less click on any ads. And I think it's just a fact that we all have to live with, and again, the overall success of my efforts as measured by return on ad spend, the click-through rate is one relatively important, but among several other important factors that determine that success. So I'm not worried about it. I guess it's the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was expecting this question already, and there's a very interesting question about kind of cannibalizing PPC and SEO. Has anyone seen organic traffic drop after implementing a PPC campaign? I mean, this can happen, of course.
Yes, many times. But it is so dependent on context, right? I've also seen the opposite, where the two of them work very well together, and they create synergies and drive way more bottom line at the end. So I don't want to be the classic SEO guy that says it depends. I want to say that the context is really that you have to take into account how competitive the search results are from other brands and how many integrations from Google you can see in the search results. And that should determine your strategy. Now, the best way is always to test things, right? Mm-hmm. Test it out. The good thing about PPC and SEO is you can turn PPC on and off, determine your spend, right? It's very controllable. So the best answer to this is always to test it out and see what the result is, and do that on a keyword level.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of drops in organic traffic when it comes to brand keywords. If both PPC and SEO done right, if you rank number one on organic, and if your like search snippet is written well, and you really trigger the search term, and everything is perfect, and then you start doing a PPC campaign, it might result in drop in organic traffic. You probably see it more often with brand keywords, but as you said, it really depends on the context. It depends what you're showing on your PPC campaign, because it might be different from the SEO search result. In the SEO search result, you might talk about the general brand itself, and in the ads you might mention a specific deal or offer, so the CTR might be higher than the organic result. So it really depends on the context.
Yep, agreed.
I think we mainly talked about topics regarding leveraging SEO with PPC. No, PPC with SEO. No, SEO with PPC. But on the other side, I'm also interested in finding out how we can, SEO can help PPC. I mean, as you said, it's not only about search engine advertising. There's also like shopping campaigns and display advertising. Do you have any examples how SEO can help PPC?
I regularly consult SEO counterparts about messaging. You know, I guess it's probably apparent how important messaging is to me. That when it's possible to test, and this pertains more to the content of the website than it does to the messaging in the organic listings. But I want to know and I want to see through analytics and through anecdotal evidence from the SEO people what content works best to produce superior return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the types of keywords that you target. If it comes to specific products, for example, I think it is much more complementary, right? So imagine you Google for something like the latest Adidas sneakers or something like that. You'll see mostly product listing ads, and that's a clear pay to play game. I think the organic results are much more complementary. It's interesting though when it comes to, for example, image search, right? That's where you also have a much more even playing field, where organic listings or organic results can still have a really good impact. But I'm not aware of anybody having tested this out, right? Like, what is the return on ad spend on image search versus regular search, and how do organic and paid results compare with each other? So I think that would be a really interesting test to run.
Mm-hmm. For me, personally, it's important to, for example, for shopping ads, it's important to have a SEO optimized website. It can really help a lot, because it can help to have a better feed and to get a better triggered keywords for shopping ads as well, because shopping ads mainly trigger keywords from the website content, from the product pages, from the titles and descriptions. So the better SEO optimized the product pages are, for example, the better shopping campaigns can work. I mean, this is an example, for example. What I also do is I can get a lot of negative keyword ideas from SEO. For example, if I don't want to show my ads for informational searches, I really want to do more like show on product keywords. I usually use SEO Search Console data, the keywords there, to create my negative keyword lists for Google Ads, for example. This could be also done for PPC optimization.
Good point.
I think we have another question here. Is there such a thing as piggybacking? And how do we do it? By this, I mean, can we set PPC ads on Google to appear not only when key phrases are searched for, but at the same time factoring in the organic search results that appear in the SERPs for those key phrases?
I don't think so. I saw that question, and
yeah, I mean,
think the answer's no. And I think he said someone had been paying money to Google to do it, and I think that's even more no.
Yeah.
However, I would add one thing, which is that there is an integration between Google Ads and your Search Console. So, and this is what I recommend for reporting: is you can integrate your organic performance data with your Google Ads performance data, and you can export that in one clean sheet and then compare the two. So even though you cannot automatically avoid paid search or paid ads when you rank, for example, #1 organically, but you can still export that report and then adjust your bids according to where you rank pretty high. And I would strongly recommend everyone doing that.
Nice.
Okay, we have another question from Heather Flash. When is best to insource versus outsource SEO and PPC? Do you have any recommendations?
Good question. Go ahead, Kevin.
Thanks. I think I know. Listen, like, there's more context to this. I'm personally a bigger fan of insourcing things, of keeping them in-house. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are great cases for outsourcing. For example, if you don't have the time, if you don't want to deal with stuff, or if you're understaffed, right? Then I think it's a great idea to bring somebody in from the outside or to back you up internally when it comes to politics. However, I think even when you outsource some things, and I do personally, you should always strive to up your knowledge and learn yourself. It is a different game. It will help you over time. So that's my short answer. Try to insource, but there are many good reasons to outsource.
Yeah, I think they're insourcing. I guess that's a new word for me. Is fine when the company is honest about the number and kind of resources that are necessary. Where I see it failing is when now Halide may be the only person that does SEM and PPC and SEO simultaneously, and does
the
it
only
well.
person in the world. Just now.
That's right. But I really believe that expecting one person to cover every possible digital marketing discipline is a recipe for disaster, and that well, to make a long story short, if companies are thinking about keeping PPC in-house, they should be very cognizant of exactly what it takes to keep someone well informed, to make sure that they're well trained, and it requires significant resources above and beyond necessarily just one person. So I usually recommend people that companies outsource when they just don't have the resources to, especially to keep their internal resources well informed and tracking all the changes in the industry and the platforms.
Yeah, I mean, when I would get this question 10 years ago, I would say, like, okay, you can insource and do everything in-house. But nowadays, I think like SEO and PPC is getting so complex. Like, there are so many different factors, so many like everyday new changes, and so many factors are getting into the count, so that that people really should get an objective eye on the work they're doing. It's good to have an in-house team, but also get an objective consultancy from someone not working in-house. It can always help, I would say.
I see that Olga is doing a recipe for disaster job. She's trying to do PPC and SEO at the same time. I'll be happy to talk to your boss and tell him.
No, this is not a disaster job. It's fine.
I think after this webinar,
except for Bill Scott, the world's best PPC is doing fine.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get another question, or if we just out of time. Maybe one more question. Would you agree that a strong content marketing campaign over time is a good bridge between SEO and PPC? It seems that both rely on strong messaging and content to some degree. What do you think?
Well, when I think of content marketing for PPC, I think exclusively of dedicated landing pages, and it's not uncommon to see that the company neglects to take that into consideration. In other words, they run PPC campaigns and land visitors on existing pages within the site that may or may not be perfect for the traffic that's coming from a PPC ad. So in that sense, content marketing for the landing pages is super important.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to agree.
Yeah, I think we are out of time. It's now 1 hour. So thank you very much for all the questions. It was really very engaging. A lot of people contributed. We didn't have the time to answer all the questions, but I'm sure they can just, contact us via social media, or just, contact us directly, you, David, and Kevin, and ask their questions whenever they want to. And yeah, thank you very much for joining, and looking forward to our next webinar series, SEO and PPC Yin Yang. The next one will be about local marketing and SEO and paid media, paid search. So this will be end of January. So looking forward to this, and hope all of you can join us as well again.
Vielen Dank.
Thank you all. No, thank you, David.
Thank you very much.
Bis später.
Bis später. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.